Hello and welcome to the showcase. My name is Sean Martin and I've got 45 years experience in the field of entertainment. I'm here to share with you some of the greatest talents and experience in Clubland. Hopefully we learn by each other, we share each other's ideas and generally we have a bit of fun. I'd like to ask you, please subscribe to my channel. Now, I'm utterly excited about this podcast because I've got my best friend for many years, and I've had some of my amazing life experiences with this man. You all know him as Mr. Chris Norfolk.
Good afternoon, Sean.
Wow. Chris, you're an extremely busy person. I'm really happy that you're still very popular. People are using you for promotion and pictures, and you're a real gem, a real professional. And usually when acts come away from the live performing, they just kind of like chill out and do bugger all. But you don't. You dedicate your time, a bit like myself, you're dedicating your time to helping other people. And that's what it's all about, Chris. And, it keeps you young. Look at you, you still look 25.
You reckon?
Don't you?
Oh, next month.
God. I'm a year older than you, mate.
Feel 63.
You'd like to feel 63-year-old. Right, Chris. When I first met you, we lived in Chiltern Street and we used to hang about with Joe Longthorne.
We did. For our sins.
For our sins. Those days was a long time ago, and Chiltern Street was on Esle Road, and myself and Chris was brought up on Esle Road, and we formed a great bond. We become good friends. Little did we know that we would have massive musical interests together, and that we'd form our life sharing some of the greatest experiences. And I start off by saying that the first time I went to Chris's house, he had a drum kit in the living room. So you started off, Chris, as a drummer.
Yeah. A drummer, yeah. He used to go to Sidney Smith School with David Wilkins, rest in peace, me and Dave. And I had no clue whatsoever that he was a singer or a guitarist or anything. We were best mates. Well, we were best mates at school for the best part of 3 years before I even knew he did anything musical. And then I found a picture in one of the classrooms in a desk. It was him and another lad called Graham Stamp. I don't know if you remember Graham Stamp.
I don't recall.
Holding guitars. And I thought, that's Dave. Look, what's he doing here? So I asked Dave what was going on. He said, oh, yeah, I'm in a duo with Graham Stamp. And I went, oh, well, I play the drums. Never seen a drum kit in my life. I just lied out there. I played drums. And then he says, oh, well, if you get a set of drums in that, you can be in our band. So that's how it started. I lied my way into his band.
Wow.
Great.
Yes, that's awesome.
I begged my mum and dad for a drum kit. And my dad said no at first. So then he went away on another fishing trip because my dad was a trawlerman. And it wasn't until 2 or 3 trips later that I begged and begged and begged. And I bought my first drum kit from Johnny Pat when he used to have the shop on Craven Street on Alderness Road. £60 that drum kit cost me, Sean.
Remember it well. I bought my first guitar from Johnny Pat when he was on Springbank. Have you still got it? He has. Johnny Pat. Sorry?
Johnny's somebody you need on here to be truthful.
I don't know if he's still got it up here, has he?
Probably.
Somebody says he's not mentally astute, but I don't know. I'd like to have him on here. Yeah, let's see.
So going back to your question, that's how I met Dave. That's how we got going music. Our first band, of course, was the CDGs. Quite popular in the day. I've sent you a picture, actually. We were quite young, 14 when we started, going around all the pubs and clubs in the local area. I think our first few gig was getting £16 for a trio. And then, of course, we got Paul Rogers, renowned keyboard player in the city. He was our keyboard player, so that took us up to a 4-piece. And, so that's how I got started. And we did all the...
I remember, Chris, CDGs used to play at Ferryboat.
No. Well, CDGs used to play at Ferryboat, yeah. But we was doing country and western, the Eagles, all them nice numbers. And then we went to see a band at Cherokee Club down Askew Avenue. And there was a band on called Radiation. And I always remember on the middle of the stage, there was this massive box
I know
This
him.
massive middle of the stage. And then the bingo was on, and this was on, and this box must have been there for an hour and a half. And then when the band started, they all come out of this box. They must have been sat there for over 2 hours inside this box, doing all the new romantic stuff and all this Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran. And I said to Dave, I said, mate, that's what we need to be doing. We need to be doing all that. So the band was then changed more or less overnight to China Garden. We started doing all the new romantic stuff, and
Well,
we
that's
had to be ruthless, mate, 'cause they had to get rid of a couple of the band members because they just didn't fit the part.
well, I understand. But Chris, I remember seeing you as CDGs at Ferryboat, and you had that guy who just made you mixer. What's his name? Sorry,
Andy Fraser.
sorry, you're breaking up. I don't know why. Andy Fraser, yeah, I remember him. And I was at the back with this big mixer, and there was you lot on stage doing all your new romantics and all like that. And I just thought, wow.
He made the mixing desk, didn't he? And it wasn't long after that you became the sound guy.
Correct.
You was
Now,
on the mixer.
how often, Chris? I mean, that was. I wasn't a musician then. I was kind of like really excited to watch you and see me mate up there. It was like watching God. It was fantastic, and the club was just packed. You kind of like transitioned from CDGs into China Garden, and then you got Bill Wright from Bankhouse, didn't you, to manage you? And God bless his cotton socks. Some great stories to tell from there.
Unreal story.
Do you remember? Because Bill asked me if I would come on tour with you, especially some of the bigger ones, to kind of like roadie, tour manager, this, that, the other. My God, I knew enough all about it, but I was a good gabber.
Then you to talk to the American people. Sean, go and get on more of that big American dude.
Crazy. That's another story, Chris, because we was at we went down to the venue in London.
Yeah.
I remember it well. I mean,
yeah, it was one of the biggest venues around.
Massive venue. And we got to London, and we was on with we was the support. You was the support for Rose Rice.
Rose Rice.
What an amazing show that was. I mean, I was backstage talking to all the Americans, and I remember it vividly. I felt so good, and then watching them on stage, it was just like, wow.
It was all wearing fair coats all the way down to the floor, weren't they? And all the gold rings and proper Harlem New Yorkers, weren't they?
And there was you lot in your scruffy jeans and T-shirts from all.
Ratty suits.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I must tell the viewers, yeah. China Garden, all the guys, well, I'll show you the picture as well. Oh, you all had your karate, like kung fu suits, black belt suits and different coloured belts and everything, and it was China Garden all. I don't know, where did that name come from, Chris?
Do you want the truth?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be called Chinese Wedding. That was going to be called Chinese Wedding. Then I think Bill Wright lived next door to a Chinese takeaway called China Garden. And when he did all the promo and all the contracts and all the rest, we're reading through it, and it said China Garden. So we went with it. We went with China Garden. But you go to any town, back then, any town in the UK, and they all had a Chinese takeaway called China Garden.
Bill, what was it like?
Bill was great. Bill loved it.
He did love it, and he was a young, inspiring, enthusiastic entrepreneur. He was really up for it.
He was ahead of his time because there was a lot of Clubland agencies in the business, as we know. But Bill wanted more than that. He wanted his acts to make it, to do. So he would encourage, because we was all doing a similar type of thing. We was all singing covers and all the rest of it. But Bill would encourage us writing our own music and writing our own songs, and a lot of Bill's acts would do that. I mean, one of the more famous ones was the Gents. I mean, they were massive. They were on TV, and they were doing their own tours. We supported them quite a lot until we become really good friends with the Gents. But he encouraged that, and he treated us all as not a club act. He treated us all individually and pushed our strengths, and would really encourage us to do certain things. He'd pay for studio time. And like I said to you, he said to you, you know, the lads could do with a road manager, Sean. Do you want to go on tour? And the rest of it. So it was great for that type of thing.
Chris, you did write your own songs, because I remember it was in Fairview.
That's what took the mix test, and after it had a joint or whatever.
Yeah, it was good. What was the song called, Chris?
So once we did with China Garden, was a song called China Garden, Black Cat in White. There was a few. We did an EP, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's joined on drums. Remember Martin also?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Remember, somebody said, "Oh, we could do with a load of tom-toms here." So they set up about 20 tom-toms, and he was giving it loads on these tom-toms.
Yeah.
I remember quite a few.
I remember, Chris, Rob, sometimes I'd take the van home and I had to drive the full length of Hull, all around Hull to pick you up. You never lived close to each other. You had to take the Mercedes van home. I remember one special gig, Chris, and you'll remember it. I'm not going to tell you what for, but it was it Champers in Barrow-in-Furness? What a faraway place that was. And the antics we used to get up to was, you know, won't be tolerable nowadays. In them days, it was bloody awesome, Chris. I mean, do you remember we had that Mercedes van, and then on the way back, I think Dave took his yellow car and he followed us. We was in the van and we was coming back on down the hill, and we all of us. I said, Chris, there's bloody cop cars all over the place. And well, something must have happened, and they pulled us in. And I was stood up in the van. Stood up, the brakes still won't bloody stop, you know, and the cops was having to. And he said, why didn't you stop? I said, I couldn't, the brakes won't work. You know, and you laugh, and nowadays you'd never get away with that. And we was pulled up at the side of the road, and the cops made to get all the bloody gear out the van, all on the side of the motorway. Dave went in Dave's car, dropped his car, and found a dildo. But that, Dave had a dildo, and then Rob had gone to the side of the field and picked up a weed and said, do you want to smoke some weed, lads? And, you know, it was bloody hilarious, wasn't it, Chris?
Well, I remember China Garden was like, if it went nailed down, he'd come in with us in the van.
It did.
Like, we used to get up to so much stuff, and Bill Wright used to say I should dread going in the office on a Monday morning, because I didn't know what you lot had been up to, and he said I used to dread getting these phone calls. And it wasn't until years later he told me, he says, I love every second of it. He says, it's like managing the Sex Pistols. Talk about
Drama.
And a reputation, but he said it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
When I left, I heard a lot more about you. Sorry?
We went back there, and we came home with a full shower cubicle on top of the van. Ralph took that. Ralph Lucas, you know the stage curtains and everything, what they used to have. Ralph pinched them. Ralph Lucas pinched them, and on the Sunday they come to press the button to open the curtain for the stripper. It's not
You know, there was, you know, them days were absolutely awesome, Chris, you know. And, you know, we need probably 3 hours to discuss some of the antics. It was absolutely fantastic. Anyway, moving on. We went from China Garden. You went into a new venture called Housequake with with Dave and his family, yeah?
Yeah.
And probably the UK, well, it probably was the greatest UK comedy show group, but it had a twist in it.
I mean, how it came from us messing about on stage.
Really?
I mean, I started off as the drummer, but I got bored of being the drummer, sat at the back. And we had a good friend of ours called Kev Waringham, who was a drummer. He was within a local band. And I said to Dave, look, I want to be the singer. I want to be up front. I want to be having a bit up front. So I said, why don't we get Kev on drums and I'll be the singer? So that's how that came about. So yeah, Housequake was really born from us messing about on stage. I would go off stage and come back dressed as a nun, or go off stage, come dressed up as Summer. But the great thing was, I did it for the band. I did it to make the band laugh. And the thing was, if I could get the band laughing, the audience would be in stitches. So that's how Housequake came about. We started. It started off by accident, and then we started putting in skits and keeping bits in until we had a full show. And then it just went, as you know, it just went absolutely stupid. We were spending money on props like nobody's business and getting stuff for stage and building our own stages to go on stages. It was unbelievable, and it just took off. It was
a
amazing.
massive thing. I mean, I remember you had 2 or 3 roadies, and you had 2 or 3 cars, and you'd go to gigs in Blackpool, Manchester, all over the place, and every place was just a sellout. And Dave or yourself used to say, "Griff, are you coming along?" I wouldn't be sick for the world. And even on the way, the laughs in the car or in the van, and when you get there and the audience and the antics you got up to, Chris, where do you get the ideas from?
Well, that's it, innit? I don't really know. I mean, I am quite I've got funny bones. Do you know what I mean? I like, whenever I meet somebody, if me and you would have a chat, I always like to think that you'd smile, or I'd make you laugh somehow, or with everybody, you know what I mean? I do like making people laugh and making people happy. I like to say these ideas we just come. I mean, for one idea, like we was watching telly, say, and like Jerry Halliwell was on the Brits, and she come out from this big, massive pair of legs. And I would just say, right, lads, I'm going to do Jerry Halliwell, but I want a big, massive pair of legs like hers. And then that weekend, Richard go away, get his tools out, go and buy a load and build these massive legs. And then another time we sat in a club and I said, oh, wouldn't it be funny if 3 Daleks would come on stage singing the Bee Gees, Saturday Night Fever, in a Dalek voice? And that week, Rich would make 3 Daleks, and I mean, we just tried this. It was that stupid. It was funny. Do you know what I mean? And it was so funny because there was a picture in Old Daily Mail this week of a Dalek on top of a petrol station near York, and I'm sure that originally that was one of the Daleks that we used to have, what we got made. But that routine, it only went on stage about 3 times because these Daleks, we couldn't get them upstairs. We couldn't get them into the club because it was that big.
Chris,
Well, if we had an idea, we would do it. We would try it. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. Dave once did a thing. I can't remember. I think it was like somebody like Demis Roussos. And coming out to sing, and he couldn't even get this costume he had on. He couldn't even get out the dressing room, big and that heavy. And he kept tripping up and he kept falling over. So that got bolted out. But there was a million things that we tried. And it was just to make ourselves. I always used to say to Bryn, if I could make Bryn laugh on stage, then I'd won. It was a killer. It would work. You know what I mean? So that's what Housequake was. And the good thing about Housequake was not blowing our own trumpets, but we were 4 or 5 good singers. Do you know what I mean? As well as doing the comedy and everything, we could sing and we could sell a song. Oh, you've gone off, mate. The sound's gone off.
Sorry about that. Ralph did George Michael, did it awesome. Looked good, looked the part and everything. Dave did Prince, absolutely fantastic. You did Jerry Halliwell, showed all your minge. That was fun.
I got all the. I was Tina Turner, Madonna, I was all the girl parts. But back then, there was characters, weren't they? We had characters in music. There was easy to do. There's easy pickings.
Funniest thing I saw, Chris, and you said I didn't know it was real. You used to get Superman in the pushchair and push it off of the front of the stage, no matter how tall it was. Oh, was it in that chair?
It was every road. It was Steve Irons. He was the first one. Then it was Mark Hartley. He always said to the roadies was, when they were sat in that chair, no matter what happens, don't laugh, don't change your facial expression, and don't move. So as they was going off stage, some of the stage was 10. They must have been sat in that chair thinking, "Oh my God!" And but we insisted they kept a straight face. Otherwise, the gag wasn't funny. If they went off the stage laughing, there's no gag. It was the fact that
Did anybody get hurt?
Nah, I thought maybe a few little bruises here and there, but I mean that yourself, that used to get one of the biggest laughs of the night. And when you're doing that, and you're the guy who's you are the butt of the joke, it's like, oh yeah, I was Superman. Do you know what I mean? Bit of kudos in it.
Where do you get the spray from for Rod Stewart?
From the guy, joke shop in town, Graham. We used to get a box of 48 cans every month. And Graham used to say, "What do you do with this stuff?" We used to say, "Well, it's Rod Stewart, innit? No, I mean, it squirts it all in Tina Turner's face." And like you'd explain that to people and they'd be going, are you taking the piss or what? No, well, it does.
Well,
Tina Turner and Rod Stewart kept him in business.
it was ever so funny, I must admit. I used to come home crying. I never wanted to leave, I just wanted it to continue. We had some great shows. I mean, together we did some charity shows together, and we had some big people on the stage. It was just one laugh, and time just flew, Chris, as a friendship. We just was there for each other all the time. It was just awesome, and then kind of like Housequake faded away. Sadly, rest in peace, Dave, and Ralph, of course. What happened after that? Did you decide you'd had enough?
Yeah, the good thing about Housequake was like you say, it got so successful. It was brilliant. But like anything, you get to a certain point, and it's not long before you start to come down. And we started doing a lot of holiday camps. We'd get summer seasons at Butlins, Pontins, Haven, all of them. But this is when there would be like a midnight cabaret. So we would go on at 11 o'clock at night with the cabaret, and it was amazing. But then I remember one weekend, Butlins had a adult weekend, and they had all these strippers on and all this. We were actually there, part of it. But it got in the news of the world that these strippers were doing things with the girls, and they turned it into one big shag fest, you know what I mean? And the story was that Butlins, your family holiday centre, this is what goes on. So from that day forward, there was no adult entertainment at Butlins or Pontins or anywhere. So all the acts that went there, you couldn't even say bugger or blimey or what. You couldn't do nothing. So we were doing like a cabaret set, just songs, no comedy, nothing. And it got so boring. So boring, because we weren't doing what we'd set out as we were. And the thing is, you're stuck in a caravan all day to go on stage at 11 o'clock at night. You just sat around waiting for the rest, all day. And it got too much for me. I couldn't handle it anymore. And this is like, we're talking 6 days a week. Maybe have Sunday off. So I said, I've had enough. I'm leaving.
Well,
so that's why I left.
I would say probably most of the acts in all know you very well. You're very well respected. The good thing about Housequake, you was all very good musicians as well. You weren't just up front the comedy. You did the drums, you had the keyboards, you had the guitars and the bass and everything. It was just awesome.
Tracks, everything.
Yeah, I know, I remember. So when you'd had enough, what happened?
I left, and everybody was saying to me, "Oh, you'll be going solo now. What, you'll be doing solo singing?" And I thought to myself, I couldn't think of anything worse, because when you've been in a band all your life and you're on stage with like your best mates and you're having a great time together and it's brilliant on and off stage and all the rest of it, like you were saying, to suddenly be by yourself in that setting, I couldn't think about worse. It scared me just, a little bit. So I had about 2 years off, absolutely not doing anything, nothing musically related or anything. But then I think it was Liz from the Clouds who ran me up and says, "Oh, Chris, you don't do any DJing or anything like that, do you?" And I thought to myself, I could. I've got a PA and I've got this and I've got that. So I started doing a few DJ gigs here and there, and I quite enjoyed it. And like my mate from work at the time, Joe, he used to come out with me on the weekend. So I had somebody with me, do you know what I mean, to bounce off and what have you. And then before you knew it, I had massive light show. I had, it became a road. So, and it was great money, and I got a great reputation for weddings and corporate events and all the rest of it. So,
isn't it funny, Chris, how we both went down the same field? Because I went out to be a DJ. I had Sounds in Vision, which was very successful, all the big gear and then I found out you was doing the same thing. Unbelievable.
Well, I'm a big believer in if you're going to do something, go for it. Go
Yeah.
all out. Don't just like be, 50 quid a night, Joey. You can go out and get 500 quid. You've got to put the investment in, and you've got to spend a bit of money to make money.
Now, that's what these podcasts are about, Chris, for you to say, somebody that's been in the business all these years, to tell the viewers, some people are going to watch these videos and think, that's good advice, and that's what it's all about. And I always say, don't go in it half-hearted, There's far too many acts that get a cheap PA, bang it up there, it's crackling, it sounds awful, cheap backing tracks, and you just sat like that in the pub, aren't you?
Yeah. Do your research. Go out. Go and watch other acts. That's what we used to do. Back in the day. I mean, when CDG's China Garden were playing in Hull, there was a brilliant music scene. There was, every pub had a band on it, or a resident band. I mean, and you'd go and see bands like Bumper Jaro. Do you remember Bumper Jaro? Gary Miller and all the other lads. And you'd look at them and you think, oh, they are amazing. We need to be better than them. Our song needs to be better than theirs. So you'd go away until you was better than them. There was that was the competition. To get a good name, you had to be better than all the other boys.
I remember the Muff Divers. They always went down well.
Well, that was that. Be everywhere, don't you remember? The
Yeah.
Muff Divers. I mean, I worked with Steve for years, and because I used to be an engineer, as the singer, and I worked with Steve for many years, and he's a good friend of mine. And Joe used to hang about with me. We became great mates and what have you. That's Steve's lad, Joe. So yeah, but there were again Muff Divers, harmonies never heard before in your life. They were massive, and their harmonies were banging. Best band around.
Them were the days, Chris, you could go in any pub or club and you'd see the best of entertainment.
I mean, the problem we've got now is young people who want to be singers or whatever, they'll go in a bar or a venue and they'll see a girl or a guy on stage or in a corner somewhere, and they're stood in front of a laptop. They've got a laptop in front of them, and they're basically singing and reading the lyrics off a laptop. And that's what they think entertainment is these days. And unfortunately, nearly all the acts, no disrespect to any of them, but that's what 70% of them, that's what they do. And that's their act. Nowadays, you couldn't do that.
Can I say, Chris, you're making a point here. You're not digging at anybody, and you're not detrimenting anybody. What you're saying here is that to actually sing without the words is a proper talent. To sing with the words in front of you really is karaoke. And yet it's difficult to remember 30 or 40 songs. It's very difficult. But some people, they don't really care. They just have the laptop and sing. And people sing along to it, How's that allowed to be? How's that allowed to happen, do you think, Chris? Do you think there's just a lack of good entertainment?
I think a lot of it to do with people being lazy. Unfortunately, what we did get is an influx of guys who used to do karaoke. Karaoke was massively popular. But it also showed some people, they might not be the best singers, but they could hold a tune and they could put, string a song together. So they would get a karaoke machine or a karaoke system and go out as a singer, and sadly a lot of them stayed like that. They didn't progress. A lot of your best singers have studied the craft of they've seen, well, that gets the audience going, that doesn't, they've worked on it. Spent years honing the...
Chris, one act that I would advise anybody to go watch is Venus.
Well, that was
so talented, so entertaining, so much energy, professional sound and gear. Name a few more, Chris.
Well, I always say, and anybody who comes up to me and says, "Oh, can you give me any advice about making it in this business?" And I'll say, go and see Venus. Go and see it. Now, Tony and Alex will, they'll tell you to your face, they're not the best of singers, but the show and the vocal performance they put on is unbelievable. It's out of this world. The energy, the costumes, the lighting, the staging. And this is just two girls, and they do everything themselves. Sometimes do 3 gigs a day. I don't know how they do it, but it's the energy they've got, and it's just like that. what they put into that show is unbelievable. And they're still doing it. They're still doing it after all. They haven't got lazy. They haven't decided to think, oh, we'll do this and we'll strip this down, we'll strap that down. No. And they're one of the most popular acts in the city. They're still getting big work. Another girl, Lisa Kelsey, the amount of time and money she puts invest into herself to get the good work and to get. I mean, she looks and sounds immaculate. You know what I mean? But she's prepared to put the hard work in to get where she is. She's not going to never stops.
Chris, we have to kind of like draw our attention to coming to a close, because otherwise we'll be going on all day and people don't have all day to watch us. We'll do an episode 2, Chris Norfolk episode 2. But Chris, just want to tell the viewers that nowadays, if anybody wants any publicity, any movies making, not blue movies, I mean, movies of them on stage, backdrops, what else do you do, Chris?
I do everything. I mean, I've done nearly everybody in the town's publicity. I do the photography. I also design the promo, the posters, all the rest of it. And the art of that is making everybody look different. I also do show reels. I do websites. Anything to do with the music business or things people need to get further in the music business, I can help them with that.
That's fantastic. And as a last note, I want to say a big thank you to Chris. And we will do another episode because we've got lots of things to talk about. Just on a light-hearted note, anything me and Chris say in this podcast is purely our fictional, from our own point of view. It's not detrimental to anybody. So anybody, please don't take offense. It's just a good laugh. The entertainment business has always been that way, where you can talk about each other and laugh about it. So on behalf of myself, Sean Martin, I'd like to ask everybody, please subscribe, watch this video and share it with your friends. And Chris Norfolk, we will definitely, maybe 3 or 4 months down the line, have another podcast for sure. So on behalf of Chris, thank you, Chris.
Cheers, Sean. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, viewers.